Okay, in the 20th century, a lot of businesses were corrupt, and muskrackers would go in and take pictures and videos were actually worse of the conditions, but it like opened up to society how gross and how things were run down. So,
Alright, so an example of this is in I don't remember who did it, but one of the recorders or the reporters, they went in and found, it was in the meat industry. They went in and they found rats all over. They got poop on the top of the meat's all spoiled and everything. And they found it, they wrote about it, they told everybody about it, and I don't remember who the president was at the time, but he came, he talked about it, he put him in the White House and everything, you know, and yeah, that's what they did. They uncovered things, all right? Y'all got it?
How the living conditions
Y'all
are
got
so
it?
bad.
Them rats, though, they got them rats.
Okay, for the muckrakers, the dude that I was talking about that uncovered all that nastiness is Upton Sinclair, and the president was Roosevelt, all right? Strong.
Today, we're going to be talking about regulation of food and drugs in the 1900s. So, during the Great Depression, we had food and drugs
Problems.
They weren't regulated, so as of now today we have the FDA. They make sure all that stuff is clean, safe, and healthy.
Safe.
Back then,
Healthy.
nah, no, it didn't have that. So, Upton Sinclair,
My boy.
the jungle he wrote, he talked about all the nasty and how it wasn't safe. And basically, what happened was people would be taking in this food and drugs and they weren't labeled correctly, so forcing them to get sick and die.
For example, they be getting Oxycontin when they got a cold. What is that?
It ain't
You know what I'm
work.
saying? What is that?
Nope, didn't work out good. So that's why they ended up 6 feet in the ground. The Great Migration. As you can see, 6 million.
Black people.
6
Black
million
people.
African Americans, blacks.
What up, what up?
As you can see, these people were forced to leave the southern area. Slavery's done.
And we had the wall.
We're back now.
Now, yep, going back to urban
So now
times.
we're all free north area. They could get jobs,
Just walking.
equal wages. You know, they're free now.
You
So
getting that cash.
they're taking
You getting that
advantage
water,
of it.
bro.
You know, now we got people. Look at the cash flow.
Black
dog.
Sabbath.
A lot of jet, Maybach.
Date white girls.
Exactly. So you know, everything's doing good now.
We
That's it. American Sniper, bro. Alright, now
Got
let's
it.
get it started. So, imperialism. You want war to be better. You want your military strong. You want to take out these hoodlums like this,
Strong.
physically fit individuals. Alright, so now, as you can see, as I took down that young gentleman before, we're trying to take out the hoodlums, as I said.
You know,
So-
sagging and everything
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that. You
We don't
know?
want them in our society. Baltimore, what's going on, bro? Take them out. Alright, so, the nations, they extend their economics for people to fund it through taxes. The government, they make their military stronger so they can conquer other countries and become the strong political power that they are.
The Homestead Act. From 1862 to 1900, 600,000 families took advantage of that. Let's just iterate. Did I just say that? Hey, Oklahoma, the Sooners, because people arrived there sooner than they should have. And also, everybody got granted 160 free acres.
Settlement houses, that basically in the slum neighborhoods, the hood.
You know.
There was a lot of poverty and misconceptions of life, if you understand.
Hey, bro, you got a dollar real quick? You got a
Nah,
dollar?
nah.
Damn, man.
On face, dog.
Dang, man.
Alright, so, you know, getting approached, robbed, a lot of violence going on.
Raw, boy.
A lot of violence, as I was saying. They come over, dangerous things going on. So what you're gonna want to do is they created the settlement houses, as I was saying. They provided food, healthcare, everything they couldn't afford. They gave it to them because in everyday life they couldn't find jobs. The Great Depression was about 10, 15 years later. It wasn't during this time, but it was coming up, and it just was a tough time for individuals with less money. So by 1910, they had over 400 settlement houses created, which probably took care of over a couple thousand people to help them get out of their bad situation. National Women's Suffrage Association, basically women pushing for the right to vote. All right, so they created Susan B. Anthony, I think it was Elizabeth Cady Stanton.
Mm-hmm.
They worked together and they founded this group and they pushed for the voting rights of women. Because back then, women could not have say in political power. Their wages were lower. Everything they did was pretty much discriminated, much like in the 60s with Martin Luther King and all the racial tension. So instead of taking violent acts and stuff like that, the women created their associations to push higher political power, such as the president, governors, congressmen, all them to help them get to what they wanted, which they eventually got in, I believe it was 1918, which was
1918.
Yellow journalism sold things. By exaggerating in the newspaper, people got more engaged and they're more interested, but they didn't know exactly what's going on. Yellow journalism exaggerated and portrayed a bigger picture, and it made it look like we're doing good in war, but in fact, in the battlefield, we weren't. We're making it look like, oh, we went in there and just took care of business, but that wasn't the case.
So the Haymaker Riot 1886 was basically protesters lining up against the police in their line. There was 3,000 protesters who
3,000
physically assaulted the police, which eventually, full-on battle, which eventually led to the police firing back. But what ignited the tension was a bomb was thrown to the line of the police, which eventually Popo, of course, and they fired back, killing some of the protesters and just causing a whole riot. Like we said, the term haymaker eventually turned on to fighting. You lean back, bro. You Glock somebody, and that's a haymaker right there. So that's it.
Corrupt. So Alvin, I want to be in power.
That's me.
I'm gonna give you a job in return for your vote.
That's cool. That's cool.
You got that.
I ain't even vote for him.
Go to your
I
work.
ain't even vote for him.
And I become the boss. How it works. I keep I give people their jobs, and I stay in office. It's about that moolah, right, Alvin? You want that moolah? And I get that vote.
All right, the social gospel movement. We're gonna start out with what they did. Basically, all the poor people in the big cities, such as like New York, Chicago, all that, they helped create. They got churches, the government, and private companies to work together to help these people in need by giving them shelter, food, water, any necessity, clothing, and this movement eventually led to the settlement houses, which kind of like shelters, gave people everything their everyday needs, such as shelter, food, like I said, water.
One horizontal system going down. Horizontal.
I see that.
The horizontal was the business had control of everything. They pretty much got the start of the product until like it was finally created. But the horizontal was more like businesses together created and finished a product. And the vertical is kind of corrupt because you don't know how much money was put into it. It's kind of like Apple. You don't know because they like pretty much buy everybody out. And like in one sense, they're considered like a monopoly, even though they do got competitors. It's just you don't know how much they're really spending on a product and like the whole process that went through to make it.
The Chinese Exclusion Act, basically in 1882. The U.S. had a lot of immigration going on, people from Europe, Russia,
Mm-hmm.
not really Africa.
You know, we was already
Actually,
here.
yeah, that was already there. But people in China, they just kept coming. So what the U.S. did was they banned them for a period of 10 years just to slow down the immigration rate because even if they were skilled laborers, there were just too many here. And there wasn't enough money to kind of make competition, so everybody was getting the same rate. So especially the unskilled workers, they were completely just denied access, and maybe they can make a couple exceptions, but they were really strict on who could come in and out. And it wasn't repealed until 1943, and then they started letting immigrants from.
The Gentleman's Agreement Act to limit the number of people coming into the state, especially the state of California. The immigrants from Japan kept rolling in, and we just couldn't get them out. So finally, we're just like, okay, we're not going to accept you into our school systems, and we discriminated against them. Problems, they fought back, and they just went on strikes. So eventually, we came up with an agreement where we accept you in school, but you have to limit the amount of people that come into our country.
Henry Flagler. He was an industrialist who built along transcontinental railroads, and basically he extended from the Florida Gold Coast all the way from Jacksonville to Key West, and these railroads extended actually to west of the Mississippi River, all the way out there. And during this process, over 2,000 people were killed, 20,000 injured, and basically it was just a brutal process getting through building the railroads themselves and then just getting them to work smoothly. Also during this time, they created the 24-hour time zone, East Pacific, Midwest, which was
Mountain time zone too.
Mountain time zone too, which is what we use today for all our.
The Homestead Strike of 1862. This time, steel, companies in the steel force cut their employees' wages. So these employees weren't too happy, and they like okay, we're not going to be doing this anymore. So they just stopped, and they get together and create a union. This is when the government has to come in and restore the
Just like that young fella right there.
just come right through.
Louis from head to toe. All right.
Come in and restore the order, and the militia had to come in and enforce
Taking kids out,
get that thing back together.
Get him on what
But,
it is, Black Ops.
They eventually got things going again, and they raised the wages back.
Alright, so next is the influence of sea power upon history. And basically, Alfred Thayer Mahan was an imperialist thinker who believed not in military force on the ground, but he figured, why not push it on the naval side where they have boats and big ships to attack and conquer from all sides and angles.
Protect us
And
against German U-boats.
Basically, he wanted to put these boats and stuff through the Canal of Panama and the colonies from the Pacific to the Caribbean to create naval bases where they'd keep all these supplies, weapons, boats, and basically it was just a new form of military.
Pullman Strike, 1894, began when 4,000 Pullman factory workers, they got their money cut, so they was upset, they was angry, and it was around Chicago. They refused to pay to operate passenger trains that used Pullman sleeping cars.
No money.
And they shut down much of the nation's freight and passenger traffic in the West. The Army had to come in, they had to come in, break up the fights,
Yep. Alright, the American Federation of Labor was a union of skilled workers. It was created by Samuel Gompers in 1886, and basically what they did was they focused on collective bargaining and they tried to get their wages raised so they get more money when they're working. They used strike tactics, protest, and they didn't go to work so they can make sure that they got more money and they weren't below minimum wage.
The Knights of Labor supported the equal opportunity in the workforce, supporting an 8-hour day, but eventually it wasn't efficient enough because strikes occurred. So
Labor Act is basically children working too many hours for not enough money, and they basically worked till they were killed, injured, or they couldn't work anymore. So it was pretty detrimental to children during this time.